Let's bring in Sarah Sanders from the White House. She's the press secretary there.
Morning.
Sarah, welcome.
Good morning. Great to be with you guys.
Sarah, we're not going to talk to you about number 23, the 23rd person to run for the Democratic nomination. So let's talk about what the president's going to be discussing today, and that's immigration reform. Do you think he's squelching the message, which is the emergency action that Senator Lindsey Graham is bringing forward by bringing out his comprehensive program at the same time?
Not at all. These two things complement one another. The legislation that Senator Graham is putting forward focuses mostly on closing the short-term problem, fixing those loopholes that we need to do right now. The president's plan that he's going to talk about later this afternoon is more of a long-term thing, looking at modernizing and updating our entire immigration system, simplifying for people to come into this country legally. And we haven't touched this system in decades, and we've really got to bring it up to speed and make sure that, one, we're protecting our border, and two, that we're bringing people in that can contribute to our society, and that we know who they are, why they're coming, and that they can help us be productive and continue to make America grow.
Hey, Sarah, how do you, because I don't know if you've noticed, but it's kind of polarized down in Washington, D.C., and everybody hates everybody else on the other side. How do you get Democrats to sign on board either with Lindsey Graham's plan or with the president's plan? Because I was reading in the Washington Post this morning, somebody who is familiar with the president's plan said, look, it's a campaign statement of what they want and don't want. There's zero chance Democrats are going to sign on board.
Well, I think the best thing you can do to bring Democrats and Republicans together is to have a good plan, which is exactly what we have in this. It's to have something that there's nothing in there that Democrats shouldn't be for. And the big difference between Republicans and Democrats in this case is we've actually laid out what we want to see happen in our immigration system. We want to move to this merit-based system. Democrats right now, unless they get on board with this, the only thing they've said they want is open borders. I think that is a terrible thing for our country, and I think it's a terrible message for them going into 2020. So I think it would be wonderful to watch them get on board with something that helps secure our border. Look, they're now starting to realize and admit that the system is broken and we have a real crisis, a humanitarian crisis that they can't even deny anymore.
Sarah,
this is a path forward.
Pardon the interruption. Sarah, why doesn't the president, who has a 747, invite the Democratic leaders of Congress to go with him down to the southern border and see what Brian saw this past weekend, where you just stand there and droves of people in the country illegally just are coming by. They're not running. Democrats would be able to see that it is a crisis and something's got to be fixed.
I think that's a great idea. You know, we've encouraged a number of members to go to the border. I know some folks in the media have been down there over the past couple of months and have seen that. Brian, you did a great job documenting some of the moments. I mean, it is a true crisis. At least we're finally starting to see more people understand what the president has been talking about all along and just how right he was, and the fact that we have to do something. And that's why we've had our team here put so much time and effort into actually building out and fixing the system. It's been broken for decades, and we're trying to do something that would modernize it and help us bring people into this country. That's one of the big misconceptions. The president wants people to come into the country, but he wants them to come in legally, and he wants them to come in prepared and ready to easily assimilate into our workforce and help grow America and contribute to it in the way that we've been doing over the last couple of years under this president. The economy's booming, and we need more workers, and these people will be great additions to our society.
Today's rollout and some of the articles we've all read, current immigration laws are terrible. The president says stop catch and release in sanctuary cities and stop the visa lottery program. Let's move on to something else that's been in the news this week, Sarah. Iran. Are our allies behind us, and what's the latest threat?
Look, we are continuing to stay focused primarily on the safety and security of American people. We have taken steps to move some of the diplomatic corps out of areas that we see they need to come from as we see the threat level go up. We continue to be vigilant. What we'd ultimately like to see is behavioral change from Iran, and we're going to continue the maximum pressure campaign until we see that happen.
Yeah, I just understand, too, Major General Christopher Giza, Deputy Commander of the U.S. Operations with the British, say you guys basically are overstating that there is no emergency, and CENTCOM has pushed back on them. But it's pretty sad when our allies are pushing back on us. It makes you wonder who are allies and what the president knows. And this is what's in the Washington Post today. Maybe you want to take this on. It says the president's frustrated with his advisors and is not personally convinced the time is right to attack Iran, nor are we in this dire state of emergency, even though it's reported that they're loading missiles on certain ships that they have. What could you tell us about the friction inside the White House as it comes to this?
Well, the president addressed this yesterday. There isn't friction. There's a lot of information, but ultimately there's one agenda, one decision maker, and that's President Trump. He's the one the American people elected. He's going to take in the information and the guidance from all of his national security team, and he then will make a decision on what he thinks is the best and safest thing for the American people. It's very simple, and it's good to have a number of people from different backgrounds with different viewpoints to offer that information. And that's exactly why the president has assembled the team that he has. They take that information, they can advise him, but we're basing this off of information from a number of different places in the intelligence community, and the president will be the one to make the ultimate decision.
All right, a lot of people are looking at that Russia investigation. They want to know if it was lawful, if it was appropriate. I know the IG report is set to come out at some point over the next few weeks, Horowitz report. And there's also that U.S. attorney that was brought on.
John
Durham. And many are wanting to know, was this FISA abuse? What can we expect?
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of the IG's report, but I think just like most Americans, we all want to know why did this start in the first place, and why were they spying on the Trump campaign? It seems like a gross overreach, and we'd like to get some answers. And we think the Attorney General is doing a great job, and we're glad that he's looking at the other side and the origins of where all these things started.
Yeah,
it's a completely insane process that's taken place, and if anything, it looks that if there was ever any crime committed, it was probably at the beginning of why this whole thing began.
The USMCA, I understand there's new political life to it. It's the new Nafta. What could you tell us? Because the word is the Democrats are taking a look at it because there's a lot to like in it. Have you heard about any movement?
We've had some productive meetings this week. I know Ambassador Lighthizer has been meeting with a number of lawmakers on the Hill, and we are seeing some progress on that front. Look, the bottom line is this is a great deal for America. It's a great deal for American workers. It's a great deal for our farmers, and there's no reason in the world Congress shouldn't be running down the aisles to get information so that they can put this forward for a vote and get this done.
It should please
a tremendously impactful trade deal, and I hope that they'll do the right thing and support it.
Unions and farmers especially could benefit because it's going to raise wages.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet.